Recently, I attended a national conference sponsored by the Major County Sheriff's Association and the FBI National Executive Institute. The conference addressed the topic of public trust in law enforcement. It's a topic which has gained a lot of attention, been the subject of controversy over the past year. Attendees included larger county sheriffs from Los Angeles and Miami and Las Vegas and Detroit, Boston, as well as minority community leaders from all over the nation. It was my privilege to be asked to deliver the keynote paper for the conference. I was also asked to give the opening comments for the group. I told them that as sheriffs and community leaders, they're responsible for dealing with the topic of trust between law enforcement and the community on a daily basis. Trust has an impact on communities and the lives of people within those communities. I reminded those present that in law enforcement we sometimes enter crisis situations in which we hold the lives of other people in our hands. Of all the difficult parts of our job, this is the most difficult and the most ethically complex part. It's something that very few people outside of the profession understand. It's difficult and it's complex, and it's something that we take very seriously. We're frequently called upon to make crucial, difficult decisions, and we often do so in the midst of America's racial divide. I told the group that we don't live in a post-racial society. Race is a factor in the way day-to-day life in America works. Racism can be found in America, and it can be found in American law enforcement. But it does not exist exclusively or even predominantly in law enforcement. Aspects of it can be found in every community, in every ethnic group. Racism is a species-wide disease. Law enforcement is the most decentralized, accessible, and responsive government service. You know, we're called upon to deal with all sorts of issues. We have a 3-digit telephone number. We make house calls 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. This means that law enforcement encounters America's racial divide more frequently and more immediately and more personally than other government agencies. And those encounters are not always calm and in controlled surroundings. Sometimes there is concern in minority communities over law enforcement behavior or attitudes. But there's also a concern or resentment in many minority communities about other issues, schools, medical care, jobs. Under these circumstances, law enforcement can serve as a convenient and accessible lightning rod within communities. Trust is a crucial issue in our profession, but trust sometimes wears thin along the racial fault lines. In policing a democracy, consent and accountability are very important, and trust is very important to the accountability and the function of police work. We hear a lot about the trust of the community in the police, but we don't hear very much about the trust of the police for the community. Mutual trust, not one-way trust, is what is very important. Mutual trust describes a state of co-responsibility where the government is responsible to the people, but the people shoulder responsibilities, and they have responsibilities as well. We've lost track of this idea of mutual responsibility in America. We sometimes mistake consumerism and entitlement for citizenship. Too many citizens either ignore or strive to avoid their duties and obligations. To rebuild trust and to strengthen mutual trust, we need a sense of mutual obligation. See, trust isn't a one-way street. It's not just the job of the police or just the job of the community. We also need a commitment to self-critical honesty on the part of law enforcement and on the part of the community. Law enforcement should be expected to examine its actions and attitudes and step forward to make changes as needed. Likewise, and we seldom acknowledge this, there should be a similar expectation applying to the community. Now, self-critical honesty is hard. It's hard stuff. But if we're going to move forward, it's necessary. If we're going to gain mutual trust, it's necessary. It's necessary as a first step to bridge America's racial divide. Those were my opening remarks to the National Conference on Trust in Policing. I believe that trust is a two-way street. I believe that we need to learn to support one another if we're going to have safe and civil and prosperous communities. I believe that we in law enforcement have important responsibilities to you, and you have important responsibilities yourselves in the community. Thank you.